Yo, welcome to the Table Talk podcast, where we sit down, pull up a chair, and we get started. This podcast is designed to provide you packed full of information to help you with your training, nutrition, lifestyle, and well-being, where we interview myself through case studies to give you lifetime experience. And then we also interview high-performing individuals or other career-focused people who are looking to make changes in their lifestyle, training, nutrition, and well-being. So let's pull up that chair and let's go. Yo, welcome to Table Talk. Carl here with special guest, Dr. Mason. So for those that are curious, Dr. Mason is a chiropractor, health professional, and good friend, colleague, and client that I've known for coming up to 5 years. She'll say 4, but originally at the beginning 5 years ago, I thought she was a dick and she thought I was an asshole, and we didn't really like each other for a year. And as you know, with Vitruvian Health, a big focus of what we do with people is we work on their lifestyle, their training, nutrition, and accountability. Over the years, I used to work with other health professionals, chiros, doctors, and we would refer people to them, and we just weren't seeing the results that we wanted to. Like, they had the skill sets to work on the mechanics, but there was always something underlying. And me personally, for months, I'd feel good for a month, I'd be in pain for a month, on and off. And it got to the point where I'll be honest, I sexually wasn't active. Like, I couldn't have sex. It was so painful for months. So, you know, there were lucky days, and then there were just terrible weeks. And obviously that just sucks being a partner. For those that maybe know Kate Mate, so miserable time in her life. Of course, I learned to communicate, and, you know, I gave massages, so that's okay. So, you know, for others that didn't have massaging skills, they're in trouble. So after a year, had a coach said to me, "You know who you should see?" I went, "Who?" He goes, "You should see Aimee Mason." And I was like, "Her? Yeah, all right." He's like, No. You don't understand. Yeah, and Amy's laughing because she remembers it, like, clearly. Like, she actually takes the time, like, takes an hour with you to understand what's going on. And I was like, no chiro does that. He's like, no, I'm serious. Yeah, all right. And so I go across, and I've seen Aimee, and she's like, "So how can I, like, why are you here today?" And me obviously being jaded for a year because, you know, she would be in the gym, and the reason why she didn't like me is one of my coaches at the time was very, like, bro, be like, "You don't know the research," even though Aimee reads the research and her partner is, like, in the research, which is pretty cool. He was like, "What would you know, doctor?" And so Amy's like, "Wow, all these coaches like this?" Well, that's how I became, like, the arsehole. So when I arrived, she goes, why are you here? And I'm like, "I don't know. You tell me." So pretty much not off to a good start.
This asshole.
So fast forward, she asked a lot of questions. It got me prompted, got me thinking. But then she's like, "Oh, can I see your x-rays?" So rather than what all the people that I've seen in the past, and look, they're great, like, experts at what they do. But one of the biggest things is consent, because, you know, like anything, if you don't have consent, that's wrong. So she actually was like, "Are you okay with, like, do you have your x-rays?" Had a look at them, and she's like, "Oh, you've got something in my SI joint. Like, it's meant to be like this big, and it was, like, blocked up to, like, you couldn't even fit, like, a piece of string through it." And the thing is, for those who are curious, your SI joint, like your hips, they have nerves that run through them. And so what was happening to me is that all the muscles would seize up and compress on the nerve. And so I would just lose the power and sensation in my leg. So I would, you know, go from deadlifting and squatting 200 plus kilos to then I couldn't do it anymore. Then struggling and in pain, no longer be able to perform as a partner. And just every day was a struggle. To then meeting someone who goes, "Cool, this is what I see. This is what's going on. My recommendation is this. Can I make an adjustment?" To me, it was like, "Yeah, of course you can." I'm like, "Why would you ask?" And she took the time to explain, like, you know, if you don't have consent and someone's not ready, you're going to naturally tighten up. So there we may get the crack, and air quote, that's a placebo. And we'll talk about that later. But that adjustment, though I get the crack, "Oh man, it feels really good," my body would actually tighten up and get even worse. And this is why month to month, I had good months, bad months, and I would have bad months where I wasn't ready. They would get the crack or the adjustment. They felt it, but I would be in bits. And so for me, after that first adjustment, she's like, "Some things are going to happen. I literally walked at 90 degrees down the street, and I'm like, what is going on? Aimee, and Aimee goes, oh, you're just straight now. And I was like, piss off. Of course I'm straight. She's like, no, mechanically. So yeah, really excited to get Aimee Mason on, because obviously after that first adjustment, I literally said, she said, here's the plan of attack. And I literally was like, I don't care. What do we do? She's like, maybe 1 or 2. I'm like, no, seriously, what do we need to do? She's like, oh. And so from there, we kind of obviously, every fortnight, Aimee and I, we train together. Well, every week we train together. Every fortnight, we actually share stories in the sense of what can we learn. And so it's really been a great 4 years fostering relationships. And I'm really, I'm really sincere to have her on the podcast. Obviously, as a best friend now, one of best friends. So for other people out there, calm down. And to obviously have her work quite closely with us at Vitruvian Health. So Aimee, that's your intro. 6 minutes.
Ooh. Holy heck.
I know.
Well, all right. Thanks for having me. I'll see you next time. Cheers, Carl. Covered everything.
So I guess to share, so some people were like, please, he's just made that up. I guess, what was your experience then of obviously me and obviously the team Vitruvian 5 years ago? We've cancelled that 1 year from our memory to then like working with us.
It was really interesting. Like I was brand new to the industry at the time. I'm trying to get myself out there in the city and get known. And so we were going to the gyms in the city every week doing spinal screenings. And I was pretty shy and timid. And then here's big Carl walking around the gym like, I know everything.
Thank you.
She's big quiet, so she doesn't know anything. And I'm like, oh. And week after week, I'd dread going to the gym, and like I'd dread going to the screenings, and I'd come back to work and I'd tell our practice manager, like, oh, that Carl guy was there again. Like, oh, him. We obviously got to a bad start because we misunderstood each other. So yeah, not an exaggerated story at all. Like it was just a long time of we didn't understand how the other one worked. And so rather than getting to know each other, we had butt heads. And the breakthrough was actually coming in one day, talking to one of Carl's coaches at the time, and powerlifting coach as well, who all he did was squat, bench, dead. And I've said, oh, I hate deadlifting. And he's like, another fucking practitioner who doesn't like deadlifting. I'm like, no, wait. I don't like deadlifting done incorrectly. And they're like, oh, tell me more. I'm like, well, I see injuries from deadlifting. Like it needs to be done safely, correctly. You need to learn how to do it with a coach like you guys. Like that's why you guys are important. And he's like, oh, okay, can you say all that again and I'll put it on my Instagram? I'm like, yeah, sure. So then that coach came in, and then Carl came in and wrote on his form, I want to see what you can do. I'm like, oh, this guy again. I thought maybe things have changed. He's coming into my clinic now. Maybe there'll be a little bit of respect. No. But we got around, as Carl said, we went through all the history, looked at x-rays.
Hang on. I listened. I gave answers.
You did. After the first couple of minutes of macho, I'm going to put this dumb idiot in her place, whatever. I think as soon as you realize I actually maybe had a brain cell or two in there, you're like, okay, maybe I'll give her a chance for a second. Started doing the examination as well, and started doing muscle testing, and Carl was so excited. He's like, no one's done muscle testing, do the muscle testing. That was cool. I think you're pretty much sold from that moment. I hadn't even adjusted you yet. You're like, yeah, cool. Like she's already different from anyone else I've seen because she's gone through XYZ. So I had done Carl's first adjustment. He's like, all right, when can I bring my partner in? When can I bring this person in? And that was it. So it's been a really great relationship for the last 4 years of referring and looking after, PTs, coaches, clients, friends, family, and like Carl said, being best friends. Take that, Luke and Kate. Sorry, our partners. It's a bit of a competitive relationship. So we broke down the walls, which was really cool, and now we have this incredible working relationship and personal relationship, and I feel very, very grateful to have that.
So I guess this is also a great time for those who are curious to the coach. So a big shout out to Tats Archer. It's been a pleasure to obviously have you part of our team and obviously make the connection for the two of us. It's been great. And for those looking for a powerlifting coach, I believe Ashfield is where he's currently based. Someone to reach out to if you're looking at being a competitive powerlifter. So thanks, man. I wish you all the best and hope you're going well. Till then, we transition back to Dr. Mason. And so those, what, I guess, for those wondering, so like, are you a doctor? Like, because Aimee's a doctor of chiropractics. What is the difference between a doctor and doctor of chiropractics?
So a doctor is an umbrella term for pretty much every health specialist who gets the title of doctor. So a dentist is a doctor of dentistry. Chiropractor is a doctor of chiropractic. But you need to, if you're not a general practitioner, then you need to specify what kind of doctor you are. So I can't just say I'm Dr. Aimee Mason, because then people might assume that I'm a general practitioner or a medical practitioner. But a lot of allied health practitioners get to use that title. So it's actually a protected title, which is pretty cool. So even though I don't hold a doctorate, I hold a bachelor and master's degree, chiropractors get to use the term doctor. And Carl likes to say it like Dr. Mason because he's cool.
Yeah, because it's like Doctor Strange, you know.
Yeah. So always check what kind of doctor is.
Amazing. So those are the stories. That's the journey. And now we're going to dive into what does Dr. Mason do? So for those that, like, we refer most of our client base from Vitruvian over to Aimee, and it's not always a one size fits all. And so that's the one thing we're quite amicable about. So like I do muscle testing, ART, and the problem is you can't really do it on yourself. So it was really exciting when Aimee did it. When someone so let's use the case study of so like for me, I'm the case study. I came to you in pain. What's the journey that we went through other than the macho guy? So someone's come in, they fill in a form, you've gathered some information about them. What's the journey here?
Yeah, cool. So typically we'll book in a new patient maybe a day, couple of days in advance so that we know we've got that longer allocated time slot to go through everything. You arrive into the reception, be greeted by our amazing practice manager, fill out a couple of forms about your history, and then we come in and sit down together. So I've had a lot of patients come in before and they expect to get straight onto the table. I'm like, no, sorry, like have a seat. We need to have a chat first. And I'll explain we need to go through their thorough history. Now, history isn't just about the pain or the current issue that they have. Because for you, for instance, Carl, yes, you have back pain, but you're not just back pain. You are, Carl, a whole entire person being with other health issues and other health concerns or lifestyle factors or past injuries that all come into play. So I'll ask someone...
I got hit by 2 cars. That has nothing to do with my back pain.
It would never
say anything
wrong. But that's the funny thing, because I'll ask people these health questions. Once we talk about their pain, I'll ask about previous injuries. So that might be, have you ever had a car accident? Have you ever been in hospital? Have you broken a bone? And I get from people, oh, but it's not relevant. I'm like, please let me decide what is relevant, because so many of these things might have set the body up for patterns of dysfunction over a long course of time. So we discuss past injuries, any other issues, traumas, anything like that, health conditions that they might have. We then also talk about their general health. So sleep, stress, any health conditions that they might have, bowel and bladder function, reproductive function, sexual function, water intake, coffee intake, alcohol, smoke, etc. So it's a whole entire lifestyle, including past family medical history as well, because sometimes we can get inherited things. So by the time we're done chatting for about 20 or so minutes, I've got a really good idea of someone's general health and well-being and all of the other factors that might be causing their back pain or their neck pain or whatever it is that they're coming in with. After that, I'll go through consent with somebody. So we'll have a conversation about consent, because it's not just a piece of paper that they sign in the waiting room. It needs to be a conversation, because that's informed consent. So that's me talking about risks and benefits of care, what's pertinent to that individual, and also giving options for care. So I'll say, we'll do your examination. After your examination, we'll discuss what types of care might be appropriate or work for you. Because the big thing is finding what is safe and effective for the patient. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. And then the last two things I'll say to someone is, one, there's no obligation to start or to continue care. So just because someone comes into me doesn't mean that they have to sign up or they have to keep coming forever. It needs to be an individual's choice where they're not being coerced into it. And then the last thing is, do you have any questions? It's amazing how many people have come in and they've never been given that opportunity before to just simply ask a question. They're sort of forced in and everything happens so quickly. So I stop, make sure you understand all of the consent, what we've been through so far, and then ask if they've got questions. From there, we'll go through a thorough examination. So I'll look at posture, range of motion, muscle testing, neurological testing, any extra special tests, and then decide, do we need anything more than this? Do I need to take x-rays or send for x-rays? Do we need blood tests? Do we need other imaging? What else might they be missing? If there's nothing else that's missing, great, then it's safe to start care, and I'll talk to the patient about what type of care that might look like or involve for them so that it is tailored to them. And then I'll give them the option, if that sounds okay, do you want to start that today? Do you want to think about it and come back? Because sometimes all of that, the history of the examination can be really intense and overwhelming for somebody. So if they're not feeling in a nice, easy, relaxed state to start care, then there's no point forcing it. Take some time to digest all the information, come back and we'll start the first adjustment. Most people are pretty cool, like, yeah, let's just go for it. Let's get started. They want to be adjusted, and then I'll walk them through what that will look like as well. But there's no pressure at any point, I guess, is the biggest thing that I'm trying to put across here. So many people have come to me and they've just been pressured into different care and different things, and they've not been given options at any point through this. So it comes back to that thing of consent that Kyle and I talked about, that's so imperative. You need to feel like you have the option, that you have the knowledge, that you understand what's going to happen, and that you can fully agree to that without any sense of coercion or like a sales pitch. I'm not here to sell chiropractic care. I shouldn't have to sell it if I'm good at what I do, is my theory. Like, yes, I know there's marketing and all that kind of stuff comes in, but it should be the best interest of the person sitting in front of me. That's what guides what I tell them, not all of these external factors of sales and pitching and whatever else. So that's first consult. So then if we start adjusting, we'll go through that. I'll say, cool, this is what I'm going to do. This is what it's going to look like. Is that okay with you? Checking in of consent again. At the end, we'll go through some do's and don'ts. So what they might expect to feel after the adjustment, what they should do or shouldn't do afterwards. And then book their next appointment if they want to.
Please, just do it. I just want to pull on the thread of during the consultation. So most people work as you and I know. Most people have a level of dysfunction. However, they have adapted to the dysfunction that they are now functional still. So like, we've got a human body, walks on in, comes and sees you, at face value, the feet, the knees, the hips, the shoulders, head are level. Like everything appears at face value at level. And so, they take off the shirt, they've got a winging scapula, but everyone has a winging scapula. Like, why is this so different? And you're asking questions. And so the other thing is, like, when I went to see Aimee, person before hit by a car, I was hit by a car. The next person was hit by, I think, a motorbike, and the next person was hit by a car. So Amy's like, why are all these people getting hit by cars?
I didn't hit anyone by a car. I'm just going to put that on the record.
They apparently a race car driver, so quick getaway. But like all of us, appeared functional, right? Like we could do, well, I know I couldn't, I can't squat ass to ass yet, but others had the function. And so, like when you train, I'm a little sore. Is there, like, I guess the question here is like, how do you know whether it is like, I'm normal, I'm fine, versus you may be, but these are some things that might pop up that might prompt you to maybe come in and see someone like yourself?
I think probably the big one in the gym setting would be someone who feels, say completely asymptomatic, physically fit, normal, whatever else. Why would I need to go and see the chiropractor? Or why would I need to go and see someone for one, do it as a screening just to make sure everything is safe, symmetrical, and functioning as best as it can be. The most common one I probably see is when someone has plateaued at the gym and they're like, oh, I can't break past, 120 in my squat, or I can't break past whatever in my bench. Like they've hit this limit and they can't seem to get past that no matter what they do. That indicates to me maybe there's something impacting on your nervous system that's not actually allowing those muscles to function the best that they can. So it might just simply be muscle testing. And I'm like, Matt, you might deadlift 200 kilos, but you have zero strength in your pelvic floor muscles. I've had some massive guys, like massive bodybuilders, powerlifters, whatever else, who've come in, and they cannot hold their leg up against my scrawny little arm to save their life. Their leg might be like this and my arm is like this, but they can't push up against me whatsoever. So I'm like, cool, you're not actually able to activate these muscles properly. So then your muscles are working incorrectly in the big lifts that you're doing. So you get to this certain point and you can't push past that. So then we unload the nervous system, get those muscles firing again. And they're like, oh my God, I've had a breakthrough. I can now bench this, or I can now squat this. So dysfunction isn't always as obvious as pain or twisted bodies and all that kind of thing. Sometimes it can be those more subtle lifestyle things, or they can't sleep well, or they feel more stressed, or digestion might be a little bit off. Period problems for women, like so many other health problems that no one's been able to identify why, might just be because the nervous system isn't working to its full potential.
Okay, so if you're someone who's hit a plateau, you've noticed an impaired ability to handle stress more than normal. So it's not like workload is doubled, but you're like, I'm ready to kill someone. Period pain, discomfort, or anything that just seems out of the ordinary, though you may be functioning fine, things that are different based off the norm that you experience in your day-to-day could be a reason to see someone in the health as a healthcare provider like yourself. What if you said muscle activation? So you're doing muscle testing to look at what is muscle testing, and two is you said it helps to activate the muscle. Can't I do activation drills in the gym to correct that? Like, what would be a sign to look out for that they're no longer working?
Yeah, good question. Look, you could do all of the muscle activation of, like a lat pull, subscap pull, or whatever that might be to try to get those muscles working. You're building the muscle fibers, but you're not actually sending the messages from your brain to that muscle. That's what's being impacted or impaired. So, for instance, and not to get too deep into anatomy, as nerves come out of the spine, there's little holes where the nerves come out of. If you have restriction in the spine or something that's impacting onto that, then the nerve isn't able to talk to the muscle as easily as it should be able to. So, for instance, if you've got a hose and it's cranked up and the water can't flow out, problems there. So we need to find that spot and let the water flow again. So the muscle, the bulk of the muscle might work, but it might just simply be the thing of initiating the movement. Once it's started the movement, it can figure out what to do, but it's that initial switching the muscle on that is inhibited because the brain isn't talking to the muscle well enough through the nerve. So that's where muscle testing can pick up on that, because we're actually looking at how easily the muscle switches on. For instance, I do a test on you, you might dip straight away and then you can push up against me really strong. Great, but you weren't able to do that straight away. It dipped first because your brain took a little bit longer to figure out how to tell that muscle to switch on. Does that make sense?
Yep. So can I just do that to myself and be like,
nope.
Or
you have to study, you have to have magical superpowers.
Well, I am magical, so
you're not a doctor. You're not Dr. Magical.
Dr. Magical. Is there a chiropractor called Dr. Magical?
No, but there's one called Dr. Hurter, and I think that's pretty funny.
Dr. Hurt Her. So she specializes in looking after females. Excellent. Yeah, wow. Yeah. No Dr. Magical yet. We could change our names. All right. So muscle testing. So it can't really be done by yourself. You kind of need someone else to kind of push against you. Not too hard, like 2 fingers. And you'll find that if you don't have the ability to activate, you'll find there's a drop. Okay. Have you ever any funny stories with regards to muscle testing? Like, do you find all the guys I can muscle and they're like, and you're just like,
It's low-key one of my favorite things to have the really big, beefy guys from the gym come in. And then there's, you know, scrawny little Aimee, like, and, you know, not the biggest, but okay, I've got guns thanks to Carl, but like, I'm not the biggest person in the world, right? And doing a muscle test on them, for instance, a grip strength test, and I'll get them to squeeze my forearm. You should be able to very easily gauge thumb and fingers all evenly and really squeeze that in. I'm like, all right, squeeze as hard as you can. And it's like the hand is just resting on me. So my line is, all right, you can start now. And they're like, oh, I was trying. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and just take them down a peg. Just get the ego in check a little bit. All right, let's work together now. So yeah, it's always a fun little moment getting to say like, all right, you can start now, when they're trying their little hearts out.
that's great. And with the adjustments that you do, so why is it called an adjustment? Why aren't we just because don't we just crack the joint? Just boom, boom. Why is it called an adjustment? Why isn't it called just cracking?
I like that you know my trigger words, Carl. Thank you very much for that. So cracking is not a term that we
Yes,
like
why aren't
to use.
we? Is a trigger word, of course. Not cracking.
Cracking is, I guess, the layman's term that people like to use because they can hear something pop or crack. The cracking kind of adjustment, so the actual noise is called a cavitation, and it's not anything actually cracking, crunching, grinding, nothing like that. It's a release of gas or air inside the joint. So as the joint glides or moves a little bit, it's that suction release of when you change the pressure from inside to outside the joint. So like when you take the lid off a container and it goes, it's just as you introduce movement into the joint and it glides, sometimes they can have pops or cracks or cavitations with it. That's one of many types of adjustments. So not all chiropractic adjustments aim to cavitate a joint. It's the more, I guess, manual kind that we would call it, and there's a couple of different techniques around that. But then there's a lot of other techniques that are a lot more low force that will introduce movement into the spine or decompress joints. So an adjustment is a change to the environment. It is people used to think about it as like putting bones back into place. You're not taking a bone here and putting it over there. Yes, the joints might be stuck in different positions. And so that's what we're doing. We're creating that free movement of the joint so that it can come back to center rather than being stuck in, you know, side bend or rotation or something like that. So we use different techniques to get joints gliding, because when the joints move more freely, it gives the nerves room to breathe as the nerves come out away from the joints. Yeah.
And what is, so that's why you adjust it rather than what is causing, what are the common causes, as you say, like you've got the joint on top of itself. What's causing, typical, like for most people in your profession, what are you seeing causing this? Is it called a dysfunction or misalignment?
Misalignment, technically, it used to be called a subluxation, but we don't like to use the word subluxation because in medical terminology, a subluxation is a partial dislocation. So it sounds pretty aggressive. So some old chiropractic literature you might read will refer to it as a subluxation. Throw that one out. It's, yes, a misalignment or a joint restriction, a joint pressure, because it's not always that the joint has moved. It might just be sticky and it's not gliding nicely. It's not stuck in one position, but it's just not actually able to glide with itself. So we sort of use a few different words interchangeably, like pressure, dysfunction, restriction. Then you can get into really fancy words like imbrication, which is when it impacts onto the nerves.
Imbrication. It's when people have replaced the joint with a brick. Right.
Yeah. So you have facet imbrication. Just makes it sound really fancy, and that's why I'm a doctor.
Am I going to die? Maybe.
No, you just have
One
possessive
day.
breathing.
One day. Stop eating bricks. Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of words. The same thing. Disclaimer: I can't spell any of those, so that's the other reason why we've got Aimee here.
That's why we also choose words that align well with each person, because some people might not like the word dysfunction. It can be scary. So I might just say pressure. I once used the term compression to a patient, and he got so hung up on that word. And I literally just meant it as pressure into the joint. And every time he came in for the next few visits, he was like, how's the compression? Is the compression gone? And I really freaked him out by using that word. So I've had to learn, read the person, read what word is going to be most sort of applicable for them without freaking someone out. Because I'm also not about scaring people with their issues. Yes, we need to be realistic and tell them what's going on, but without scaring them into care.
I get scared into care whenever you push into my serratus on my lat. Just remember that. Too bad.
Well, you ask for it. You ask for it. No comment.
So we got the misalignment, the compression, subluxation, dysfunction. What for the general person that we sit at a desk, we work at a computer, it's all lined up. What's causing these postural, these misalignments or dysfunction for the standard person, other than the one leaning all the way back? Like, what could they be expecting? That could potentially cause these?
I love that you've just said for the person who, has their computer set up all perfectly and sits straight and has everything beautifully, perfectly aligned. If you meet that person, let me know. I'd love to speak to them, because nobody has that. Even the people who I set up their desk and everything perfectly for them, I've literally had it. I came in to do a desk check, checked all of the chairs, changed everything into great ergonomic positions. As I was walking out the door, one of the staff flicks the chair and has gone straight. I'm like, thank you so much for wasting my time. So because but it's
here's my card.
But it's comfortable like this. Posture is the number one thing, and we talk about posture in every position. So standing, sleeping, sitting, because every position we're in, we are in good or bad posture. Even myself, yes, as a chiropractor, do not have perfect posture. I don't like sitting for long times, which is why I'm sitting here squirming like this on the podcast, because I'm used to being up and around and moving. Most people will sit with crossed legs. Most people will use a mouse that's not sort of in nice and close to them. They might have their computer too low. They're on mobiles, down like this, going, why do I have neck pain? Nobody is actually thinking about their posture 24/7. It's pretty impossible to do so. So even if someone is so proactive and so keen to care about their posture, no one's 100% perfect, so they're still going to end up having these pressures come back in. We then have other factors like bags that we're carrying unevenly. Even if it's a backpack, we've got two straps on, one might be longer than the other and it's pulling unevenly and creating strain or torsion. We might always use our phone in one hand. We might sleep on one side and sleep all twisted and crooked. Don't even get me started on people who sleep on their stomach. Talk to me if you want to know why that's bad.
However, what if we have a hole in the bed for a face to fit in?
Dude,
like
shut up. That's my $1 million idea. Why would you say that here? Oh.
Should I just sleep on a massage table then? No. Oh, why not? That's not fair.
Because then it's not going to support your lower back and you'll push your lower back into a little bit of extension, which for you is not going to be very good.
But my glutes will look bootylicious.
Basically, we have a lot of uneven pressures, stresses, load, environmental things around us. We're not doing everything perfectly symmetrical 100% of the time. So then it's creating uneven loading through our spine, through our joints, the way that we're weight bearing, and it's then creating that pressure, dysfunction, misalignment, whatever it might be, onto the spine. So even if someone's completely asymptomatic, it's very rare that I'll find someone who has very few restrictions or issues through their spine.
What do you mean by, so you say load? What is load
Well, load
on the
can
body?
be taken as many different things. Load can be emotional, load can be physical. Load might be the way that we're carrying stress. Load might be the way that the barbell is sitting on our back. Load might be the way that we are carrying our backpack, the way that we are holding our phone. Load is everything that impacts our body.
Okay. And so load is something that we all deal with. So like stress, but it's more. There's more, you're looking at everything as a whole, so more holistically. Cool. Then, so we've got our load over here. So for example, I'm someone, me and my partner fight all the time. Okay, I'll get rid of that load and then I'm all good, right? So I have no more problems with load. Like these joints that have compression or dysfunction, could I just not do that myself? Like, just roll that one area heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps, and then boop, it's done, it's fixed. I don't need to worry about it.
Of course you could. That's completely fine because you went to university and studied for 5 years, didn't you, to learn all about the intricacies of the spine and how to unlock. Oh, wait, no, that's right. No, you didn't. People who come in and like, oh, I got my housemate to do that one that you did on me last week because it looked easy. Well, I cracked my own neck, so that's cool. You don't need to. It's okay. I foam roll my back and it pops out, so it's all good.
It pops out on the floor. Fucking, I got the joints. All right, I'm good. I've aligned them. Great. I'll put it back in. Yeah. Awesome.
So the niche of chiropractors is being able to identify these areas of restriction or dysfunction in the spine and work specifically into those joints. It's very easy to make hypermobile joints, so the ones that are already moving and don't need to move more. It's very easy to make them pop and crack. They're the ones that are going to pop and crack, when you stretch your neck or when you try to twist your back or whatever. When you're doing that, you're making the restricted segments more restricted because they're now having to create this stability because these ones up and down are moving too much. So this one's now like, oh, I've got to really hold in here so that I don't crumble as a pool noodle onto the ground. So when you're doing these different things of trying to twist and crack or foam roll and crack or stretch it and crack and whatever it might be, you're actually highly likely making the problem worse. Might feel great in the minute because, we have that little happy release of the crack and it's like, oh yeah, that feels great. But then the problem comes back again. People are, oh yeah, I crack my neck like 50 times a day. Why? Oh, because the problem keeps coming back. Cool. So you're not actually fixing it then, obviously. So why do you keep doing it? Oh, because it feels good. How long does it feel good for? About a minute. Cool. So it's about educating why that's not a good thing to do. And it's about breaking habits because for so many people, these are just long-term formed habits that they've done for days or weeks or months or years, and they're now used to. And we need to create that change and stop the habits so that it's not this ongoing thing that they're creating, more issues in their spine or in their body.
Right. So, okay. Well, just pull back on this one. So, no, it's great. We're obviously passionate about this.
I will rant all day.
I will kick your ass, Carl. So, with this, like, let's say I've had a breakup with the partner. I've changed careers. Like that load. I've got a new trainer or a new program. I don't feel the frustrations as much as more. So I feel better. We were talking before about this. I appear functional. Like I look in the mirror. My neck was here before. Yeah, all right. Okay, it's good now. That's not enough.
Well, it depends on what you want out of life, what your goal is. Do you want to be just okay? Do you want to function okay? You're like, well, I'm not in pain. I can move. I can do all this. That's pretty good. Or do you want to be the best you can possibly be? And that's the thing, like for a lot of people, because they're not in pain, they don't want to spend the money or the time on seeing somebody who can improve their posture or improve their spinal health or improve their general health, because they're doing okay. So they'll just wait until the wheels fall off. They'll wait till they're in pain. And cool, that's completely up to you. There's not a problem with that for you if that's what you decide. For me, I want to be as happy and healthy as I can possibly be. And that means having as few restrictions on my spine as possible, having my nervous system work as optimally as it can be, and be the best person, the best version of me. Like, that's what I strive for every day. That's not for everybody. I'm not going to force those people, so that's okay. And that's it. That's where the option for care comes in. I might give someone all of this advice and tell them they've got all this dysfunction and this is all, like, this is what we can do about it. And they might go, okay, cool, no thanks. I'm like, cool. That's okay. You have the information now. You change your mind and you want to function better, great. You've got my number, but I'm not going to force it on you.
Yeah, wow. That's a rabbit hole we won't go down. As we both know, we want to help people, can't help everyone. It's like, oh, but I really want to. Come on.
And
Consent.
it was probably like a barrier at the start for me. I'm like, why didn't that person want to start care? And now I'm like, you're not going to vibe with everybody. Because someone's going to get the best out of care if they want to be there and they're comfortable being there. Because again, even just from a muscular perspective, it helps things to relax if they're not there and being forced into everything. So why would I force somebody into care if they don't want to be here? Cool. That's okay. I want to have the energy to spend on the people who do want to be here and who do want to get their bodies better.
And I guess also a benefit to those that may be going, nah, not Dr. Mason. The cool thing about at the clinic that she's in is that there's a gentleman called Dr. John, and they also have access to x-ray machines there. So if you're someone who's time poor and you don't want to go to another clinic to get x-rays, going to Wynyard Chiropractic's clinic, they have it all there. So they got male, female practitioners, lovely practice manager, Christina, not Christine, Christina with an A. Don't do it with an E or you'll be killed, and you'll die with an E. I say that because I've made that mistake so many times. But like a good team and collaboration there, and they have access to all the tools needed so that you can save time getting, I wouldn't say get in, get out, because obviously they take the time to be holistic and work through with it. For someone who's obviously dealing with load, whatever you want to call it, dysfunction, compression, frustration, irritation, have noticed just things that have changed recently on hitting a plateau, how do they best get in touch with you? Like, I guess, how do I get in touch with you? Where do we start? And what would I be expecting after that consultation and that first adjustment or crack?
Yeah, cool. So how to get in touch with us depends. If you want to have a chat with me first, feel free. You can get my mobile number. We can have a chat. If you want to send me a message, happy to answer that, because sometimes people want to talk about it before they actually come in, just so that they can sort of feel confident in coming to the clinic. If you're already cool, like, man, I want to come in, where do I book? Go onto our website. There's a book now button. Find a time. Make sure you select Dr. Aimee Mason. Or Dr. John, if you want a male practitioner, that's okay. But I'm the one here on the podcast being awesome. So.
Get Dr. Mason.
So you can book through the website. But if you have any other questions, just reach out to me personally. So you can either call the clinic or book online, or chat to me.
Cool. And, disclaimer, Dr. John is also great. He's been doing it for 40
years.
40 years.
40 years.
Ooh, man's got some experience.
Yes.
And some cars to boot.
Yes. He is a wealth of knowledge and speaks bits of many languages as well. So it's always just a bit of extra entertainment in the clinic if you want to hear a 62-year-old male speak Cantonese or Russian or... Anyway, we digress.
Or go to the gym with him. Yes. He will be joining the gym very soon. Haha.
So your other question of what would you expect after an adjustment? So you come in, we do all the great things we've just talked about, history, examination, adjustment, whatever. I like to follow up with you within the first 24 hours, whether that's a call or a text, depending on what you're happy with, just saying, hey, how'd you go? Do you have any questions for me? The next appointment then you'll come in for is also a longer appointment. So we'll sit down and we'll go through basically preemptively answering your questions of how often do I need to come in? Why do I need to come in? What's my problem? So we discuss through that. So we do a little recap of the first visit, highlighting what you've come in with, me highlighting what your actual fundamental issue or issues are, talk about your goals for care. So what do you actually want out of coming in? I explain a little bit more about how adjustments work, like in terms of the frequency of adjusting, why we might need adjustments more often than just once every 6 months. And then we talk about that frequency tailored to you. So depending on what your condition is, how long it's been there for, all of those factors that play into how much care you'll actually need. So we have that conversation. It's very transparent. We then discuss realistically, all right, what's actually going to be feasible for you of how often you can come in. Cool. So that might take now this long. And we go through that little timeline. So you know what to expect rather than just wondering, like, how long is this going to take? Why do I need to keep coming back? It answers all of those questions for you in advance. We then talk about when we're going to do your first review visit. So a review will be actually going through and comparing where you are after however many adjustments versus when you first came to see me. And there I actually give you a percentage of functional improvement. So we like to talk about things as objectively as we can so that you can see, oh, I completely forgot I couldn't do that test before and now I can. That's really cool because people genuinely forget how much dysfunction they were in when they started. When they're feeling so much better, they forget how bad it used to be. They're like, really? I couldn't do that? Or really? I was only sleeping 2 hours a night? I'm like, you lived with this for 20 years. How did you forget about it? But it's amazing when you're feeling better, you stop thinking about the pain and the dysfunction. And then we go from there. So then after that, we do adjustments. We give postural exercises, corrective exercises in terms of, laying down and breathing in a position that's healthier for your spine, that kind of stuff. If you're someone working with Vitruvian, then I'll ask for your consent to talk to your coach. So that also makes the process easier between, say, for instance, myself and Carl, if I'm looking after one of Carl's clients, rather than me saying to that client, oh, here's all the stuff you need to remember about your spine and all of the changes you need to make in your program. Now go tell Carl. And they get to Carl and they're like, Aimee said,
my spine's not working.
So if that person is okay with me conversing straight to Carl, I say, hey, Carl, I've seen blah, they've got this, this, and this. Can you make these changes to the program? And then everything is great. And we can just work really smoothly with each other and cut out that whispering process of breakdown of communication.
Yes, I've had one client go, Aimee said a bunch of things to do. Did you give consent? No. Call. Hey, just confirm you're okay. Yeah, I will give consent. Okay. Hey. Yes.
Just fast tracks the process. Like it makes it so easy. And when we have other health practitioners or health professionals like yourself who we can do that with, it streamlines everything and it makes it so much more efficient for the patient because then they're not having to remember things or write things down or remember to tell that person. It's just done and all bases are covered.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So for those that are interested in chiropractics or chiropractor who's provides more of a crystal either, but thank you, Dr. Mason, for being on the show. For those that are interested in looking for a chiropractor or someone who takes more of a holistic approach to health and well-being, then reach out to Dr. Mason herself. Website's here, social media's here if you need to message her on Instagram, and that's the best channel, or email so you can get more information. Remember, the process that Aimee takes is someone holistically where she starts with you, what your history is, and then gets to know and understand what your body is. You may, for me, for example, I have back pain. Fix my back. Aimee then does muscle testing to find out what it is. Actually, man, your pelvic floor is not firing. Your external rotators are so tight because your internal rotators aren't working. It's causing the compression on the nerve that is in your back. That's why your back hurts, but it's actually the things around it. From there, she'll obviously go with consent, working on a plan of attack for a adjustment, not a crack. So if you're looking for crack, probably not the right place to go, probably somewhere else. But you get an adjustment, which may have a placebo. If you do get the placebo, give her a fist pump. It's fun. From that adjustment, you will experience changes in your body. If you don't, she'll be in touch with you within 24 hours. See her again in 2 to 3 days. Get the evaluation, get a plan of attack. Now, for me, my experience, we did 3 times a week for 12 weeks because that's what I wanted to get the results as quickly as possible. I've been in pain for so long. That is a suggestion, but Aimee comes with a plan of attack that suits, obviously, time, budget, and obviously the outcome. So it may push it out, but just understand there's a lot that will say you must do 3, but she looks to listen to the person and customize a plan to suit you and your needs. So if you're looking for someone, she is the woman for you. Done.
Legend. Thanks so much for having me on.
Adios, amigos. Hey, thanks so much for joining the episode of Table Talk today. We hope you found some helpful tips and inspiration in staying healthy and fit, even with a busy schedule. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Stay tuned for our next conversation. Until then, keep prioritizing yourself, your health, your fitness, and we'll see you on the next Table Talk.